I'm one of the POG board members. There's a few of us here. If you are a POG board member, raise your hand. We try to make it a safe space, so let us know if you need anything, if you need our help and support. Thanks for joining us tonight. We get to hear Derek Sheffield, wonderful poet of Cascadia, Simmons, Buntin, and myself. I threw myself into the mix. We have people to thank, groups and organizations, so we like to do that. And people might laugh at me if this is an outdated list, and I've added people that are no longer supporting us, but Arizona Commission on the Arts certainly has in the past, probably still is, Poets and Writers, University of Arizona Poetry Center, U of A English Department, Journal of Arizona Quarterly, which is housed in the English Department, and Chax Press. Yay, Chax. We are also supported by many individuals, and if you want to ever donate to Chax, you can go on our Chax to POG or Chax. You can go on pogartstucson.org, is it? Yes. There's a way to do it. Bathrooms are through here, and I personally used Clorox wipes on the one on the left and put some paper towels in there, so I'm recommending that one. It's an old building, but that one is technically clean. Looks a little scary. Lots of food and drink, and we'll take a short break after. I think we're going to start with Simmons, then me, then we'll have a short break, and then Derek, our headliner. There are books for sale. My little chapbook, which is tiny, I'm going to read it for you tonight. It's one poem. Is a little fundraiser for Chax. So that's a way to get to Chax. We do like to take the opportunity before starting to remember that we are on the traditional homelands of the Tohono O'odham and Yaqui people. And I have read that the O'odham feel that one of the roles they had when they emerged into this world was to be stewards of the land. And giving voice to eco-poetry as we are tonight, bringing diverse voices to our series of readings as we've done over the years, we hope supports those efforts of encouraging stewardship and collaboration. With that, I'd like to welcome Derek Sheffield, who's going to introduce our first reader, his friend and colleague, Simmons Buntin.
I got to get this adjusted because Simmons, as you'll see, is a tall drink of water.
Yeah.
And that's really all I want to say. So he's the author of Satellite, Essays on Fatherhood and Home, Near and Far. And it's actually not out yet. Officially, you can't get this until March 4th. That's the release. But Simmons has some connections, so he was able to get a few copies for us. So thank you for doing that, Simmons. I'm really excited about this book. It's been a long time coming, and it's beautiful. And he also has a book called Unsprawl, Remixing Spaces as Places, a collection of sustainable community case studies, and 2 collections of poetry, Bloom and Riverfall. He is the co-editor of Dear America, Letters of Hope, Habitat, Defiance, and Democracy. I walked in tonight and I saw a button that said resist, and I knew I was home. That series was started by when Allison Hawthorne Deming wrote a letter to America, and back in November of 2016, I think it was, right? Yeah. And that led to this book. Thank you for writing that, Allison. So Simmons, and oh, by the way, Simmons is also the founding editor-in-chief of Terrain.org. Yeah, which is 27 years old now. It's the oldest place-based online journal on the planet.
Wow.
On the planet.
Wow.
Welcome this tall drink of water.
Is the microphone high enough? It sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, it sounds
All right,
good.
awesome, thanks. Thanks so much, Derek, and thanks to everyone for having me here. It's really an honor and a delight to read to folks tonight. And I'm going to read a little bit about from Satellite. I think Derek might read a little bit from Dear America. We have copies of that for sale over there as well. It is more timely than ever, I'm sad to say, but so it goes. I'm going to read 2 short poems, not in that order. We're going to go from coyotes to rabbits, in between prose, well, let's say poetry, prose, poetry. And this first poem I'm going to read, I think the important thing to know is that it is inspired by 2 of my favorite things, which are field guides. By the way, you'll see Cascadia Field Guide, we'll talk more about that, and mint chocolate chip ice cream. This is a poem called Wild Mint. Did you know that in my hand-sized guide, you were shelved among the blue odd-shaped flowers? You, the purple coyote in the field, your feet licking the moist soil, releasing the slow and the sweet. And did you know in the volcanic slide of the red and solemn hills, there is a gully grinning between broken teeth? And in the palette of light where you and I live, foraging among the brittle bush and saxifrage, I have peeled the dark earth for a mad glimpse of your pure white flesh. Have you not also felt the blue mustangs wrapping the rivers of their hooves through our canyons, the cottonwoods closing in around us, indeed, the entire mountain dropping its shoulders to green shadow? There is nothing to reference the long roll of the melancholy night, nothing except, perhaps, for the passage on page 597. The dark teas made from the leaves of this intricately fragrant herb treat ailments and pause the pain of childbirth. Even now we hear the coyotes' howls, low from beneath the hidden ledge, followed by the sudden yips of blind and naked pups. From one red scarp to another. That's right. This is Satellite, 16 essays, as it says on fatherhood and home, really fatherhood and community. I'm going to read the first of a 4-part essay that's called A Pure Color. This also has some of my photographs in here, which is pretty cool. And the reason I'm reading this actually is because we went to Sabino Canyon this morning, and that was really delightful. And the second part in this, which is the color green, takes place is inspired by Sabino Canyon and that amazing rainstorm we had in 2006 that washed out everything. But before we get to that, let me give you the epigraph. This is hue, the property of light by which the color of an object is classified as red, blue, green, or yellow in reference to the spectrum. Okay, so green is the third section, but I'm reading the first. That's red. This is my first reading from Satellite. So, so thank you for your understanding. Okay, 1. From the first morning, I see red. I feel it even more, fine claret dust on my teeth, beneath my fingernails, on my skin like the smooth scales of a coral snake. Sleeping in the teepee has something to do with it. Wrapped in a tight turquoise bag on a cot along the banks of Professor Creek. Allison, you may remember this. 20 miles from Moab, Utah, I wake and wish for a cap. My exposed ears could crack at the slightest touch. I wake and shake off the particulates that hang in the air and in my dreams like the icy residue of fog. The red of southern Utah is visible, eyes open or closed. With camera in hand, that scarlet hue is what I'm after. Yet there's a broader pursuit, a central question. In the spectrum of place, what can I learn from the hues of the land? Though I write, it is often my camera that leads me, that captures and channels the light and holds it. The digital lens is my regular guide to beauty, but on what paths? Passion, serenity, vibrancy? And how does the experience of beauty, the seeking and obtaining, inform the landscape and our place in it? Here, where it seems that only the Colorado River isn't red, it's milky brown, or in the evening green tinged with indigo, the color seems inescapable. And yet it eludes me, for the light moves like a phantom across the high desert landscape. Cliffs shift from vermilion to charcoal, arroyos wash from carmine to coffee. The changing light is a constant, and my desire is to hold it for the moment it takes to strike an image. In that respect, I am a thief. I seek to steal the light, and in stealing, so save it. Who can still such desires? Red has long been the color of desire in Western cultures, and despite the autumn chill and thick cottonwoods along the creek, the color transports me to my home in Tucson. Our bungalow is not red, but purple. The home's exterior decorated in paints labeled Putnam Plum, Concord Jam, and Ode to Purple. Contrasted against these tints, a prickly pear grows at the front of the house. Once only a trio of pale green pads, the cactus has sprawled into a spiny structure the size of a sedan. Not long ago, my daughters pointed out something odd on the plant, something white and waxy. From a distance, the growth looked like tufts of cotton caught in small patches along the cactus's spines, or like the remnants of a spitwad war zone, suggests entomologist Carl Olson. It's a sure sign of cochineal, a small insect that uses its beak to spear the cactus pad and then slowly suck it dry. In Latin, cochineal means scarlet colored, and stripping away the wax reveals the female, bright red, bag-like, a quarter-inch long. Their history is also one of desire. According to Olson, who studies the group of insects called scales, the cochineal was the basis for a thriving Aztec textile industry known for its bright red garments. The Aztecs called it nochetzli, and it lived on the cactus nopal. After the conquest of the Aztecs, the Spaniards shipped bags of dried cochineal back to Spain, and from there it became popular throughout Europe. Cochineal dye is found in Michelangelo paintings, in the first U.S. flags, and in the red coats of British soldiers and Canadian mounted police. Harvested today in Mexico, Algeria, and the Canary Islands, it is also used in cosmetics and food color, a natural alternative to artificial dyes. From the frosty look of the prickly pear beneath the plum windowsill, cochineal could be harvested from our front yard as well. My daughters urge me to spray the wax from the pads. Get rid of it before it kills the cactus, they say. But I'm reluctant. Prickly pears are hardy, and though a pad or two has already fallen, I can't help but think these small beads of desire deserve a chance. While they are mostly sessile, the morning light that brings me back to Utah reminds me that desire shifts often, shimmering like the iridescent scales of a fish. The color of desire may be red, but I suspect the spectrum is not so easily divided, nor passion so clearly defined. Is it better then to focus less on color and more on landscape, those open spaces that likewise shift in the spectrum of memory and mood? Where I live, says author and naturalist Terry Tempest Williams, the open space of desire is red. She lives one valley over. I live one state down, but have traveled north less to contemplate color than to participate in a convergence of environmental writers and activists, red-faced denizens who, like Terry, like any of us concerned with the vanishing of natural landscapes and our place in them, wring their hands and then their minds in a collective desire for what we might call harmony, or holism, or healing. How, we ask, and sometimes succeed in answering, can we counter the industry of progress with its singular conclusion of loss? Desire may be the answer, but that too may be lost in the valley's frigid morning. Perhaps desire is exactly what I've found. The sun has not yet risen over the vast rock formation that bulge like ancient unlit cities. I walk toward them, my feet sweeping sand, my boots heavy with the stuff, as if the velvet ribbon of this arroyo could hold me as easily as I hope to hold it. Of course it could. Of course it has. We are never beyond the landscape, never fully able to claim it, though with camera in hand I am certain to try. A pack of coyotes calls from a distant ledge, the yipping a premature burst before sunrise, then silence. How long can they hold it? How long can any of us hold the perfect moment before the break of day? The sun rises and I stop. A cottontail scrambles. The sun's radiance lights the clouds in the east, though the orb has not yet breached the horizon. I raise my camera and turn to the west, a panorama of red. Sculpted, the arroyo flows, and the easy metaphor is blood, but the riverbed is dry, dyed, and bloodless. I think back to the cochineal, which digs in, covers itself with wax, and stays. That is strong desire, even if humble, innate. The streambed's banks blaze with rabbit brush and sage, foreground to tipping scarps and mesas, burgundy, then magenta, then scarlet. In the distance, cliffs and spires of vermilion, rose, salmon, garnet, too many reds to count, more than my camera can claim or decipher. The rabbit rushes across the wash and I turn, lens whirring into focus, but miss the shot. It slows then and transforms to juniper, to hill, to ruddy bluff, to the mesas and the sky beyond, red and, like an old desire made new, redder still. Thank you. So that's the first part of 4. And since we're talking about rabbits, let's bring it home a little bit, shall we? This is, if you have not seen the Sonoran Desert Literary Field Guide, it is wonderful, and it really started a whole run of literary field guides across different regions, bioregions. And I have a poem in here called Desert Cottontail. What's important to know about cottontails for this poem is 2 things. First, pretty much everything eats them that can catch them. And they like to eat their own shit. And they do that because they can get nutrients out of it the second time. I don't recommend it. But as a poet, one must try everything. No, I'm just okay. Desert Cottontail. Hopper, but not hare. Bunny, but not jack. Shit eater, but not jackalope. That giver of shit. Launcher of tumbleweeds. Cottontail, you zig through my thoughts like you zag through the keen mind of my dog. The bone-white Shih Tzu tracing your evening trail and your riotous tail. And so we both know you are also on the mind of the rattler who seeks your fur-lined nest, the coyote who plays the opportunist, and why not? He too steals the prickly pear's ruby meat. And also the owls, great horned and barn, not to mention, of course, the cats, the yard's fat tabby you'd think couldn't catch a whiskered thing, but look at that bloody hog. And also the margay and bobcat, ocelot and mountain lion, and if the rumors are true, the jaguar, whose name means skull crusher. So back then to the canines, let's admit my pup cannot compete with kit fox or gray fox or Mexican gray wolf. And also my flavorful friend, you scamper through the mind of red-tailed hawk and Harris's hawk, Cooper's hawk, and American kestrel, well, ambitious to be sure. And below them, the badger and the bear, weasel and raccoon, striped skunk and hooded skunk. And after all that, I coax my dog back as you sprint from every talon and claw into the ravenous night. Thank you.
The man who needs no introduction.
Just don't give me. I got those. Need my glasses for everything. Yeah. And boy, this is just right at the nose. Isn't it?
We're not the same height?
Close. I'm introducing Lisa Periale Martin. What's a poem? Some would say spontaneous overflow of emotion, some would say language charged with meaning to the utmost degree, and some would possibly, with a wise, slow shake of their head, not wish to take on this question at all. But we do. William Carlos Williams famously and correctly, I think, said that a poem is a small or large machine made of words. In other words, it takes words that are gathered and forms them to the greatest efficiency. Henry David Thoreau was a gatherer. Bernadette Mayer was a gatherer. Emily Dickinson was a gatherer. Beyond words, Lisa Periale Martin is a gatherer. She has gathered poets and taken them to Sabino Canyon regularly, again and again, so that they might know that place, gather their words in that place, and find the efficiency of words that might approach the challenge and beauty of that very special place. She has gathered poets to create readings like this one in the past within this POG collective, which is a sort of gathering of its own. She has gathered poets to witness and write about the public murals in Tucson's downtown areas. She has gathered words over her career, and isn't that at least one part of what a librarian does, and she is one. She has gathered words and dispersed them into a book of gatherings, her collectives of poets, which begins, poets gather for a reading. And when poets gather, anticipate an ambush, a bloom, a cackle, comedy, communion, when poets gather. Gather and disperse into ambushes, blooms, cackles, comedies, communions. When she gathers, she then releases into discrete poems, those small machines, of efficiency and delight, and the world changes. This is what poetry is. This is what poetry does. In a recent poem, she writes of hundreds of clotheslines, fluttering flags perched on a moving borderland with kids' bikes, swing sets, a radio flyer just waiting to hit the road. A gathering here not so unlike Williams' red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater. In another, she invokes the gathered words of others, as well as the places we gather to share such words. A movable feast, familiar ground for each. She offers up Rumi, he tries to make Beale Street talk. Two cups span decades, generations, their roots and histories. Then the weather shifts, a beam lights upon a teaspoon. Her poems, her gatherings are also spaces to sit down in, stay a while, understand that our lives are made of familiar grounds, roots and branches and histories, cups and teaspoons. And remember T.S. Eliot's afternoons measured out in coffee spoons. Everything matters. Everything gathers. My friends, dearly beloved, we are gathered here together to witness the union of such gatherings, the movement from collection to poem, from poem through voice to us, we who love to be astonished, as the late Lenhaginian christened us, who become both the gathered and the receiver of the gathering that goes out from here to gather more. We are blessed by what Lisa Periale Martin has made. The poems, machines of words, and the communion in which we take part and live. Please welcome Lisa Periale Martin.
He is a master of that. So, gosh, yes, we had a wonderful time in Sabino. And it was so great to have some new poets with us and with our core of regulars. After our first year, and we're going into our third year, we had a reading in Sabino, and I put a chapbook together, and I have a few of them I'll just put out. It's not like I'm trying to sell them, but you might enjoy just taking a little walk through one of them. And we've got like, a bird list in here, some great poetry, and some art, some photographs. And we're about to, in late March, early April, have another reading, and I'm going to try and put another chapbook together. So several people in this room have some poems in here. It's a treasure.
Oh,
I was going to read one of them. I need those glasses too. All right. Oh gosh, I forgot my brother has a poem in here. This poem is called Today. Sabino Creek, awash of liquid minerals, flecks of gold, patches of sky, pine needle tea. Awash, awash, without plan or thought, wearing away tiny garnets from granite. Fairy faceted, pale amber sound of canyon breeze. Every day cannot have a gift of bighorn sheep, but it can be all this, scarcely contained in one heart. Let's see. So, let's see, I was fortunate to come across an interview on a video of Charles Alexander several years ago, and he was talking about developing your community of poets. And then I took a class with him, and that process began. I mean, I had been writing, I'd been studying, but I really bonded with people in that class. Some of them were in this room. We really did start to have a community of poets. So I started going to POG readings. I ended up on the POG board. We did a chapbook in 2021, and there's talk that we're going to do another one. That would be nice. So from the lookout tower. I'm sleeping with E.E. Cummings. The complete poems, black cover from '72, jammed against my thigh. Not refined, more buck than bite. I read him 13 times a night. Anais gets it. I can feel it. She moves shimmering with heat in June. Now you're over me, wrapped in night. Drove the rim road by moonlight. Brazened, blazing through atmosphere, pocked tektites, peridot, olivine, scattered at the canyon edge. I kind of went with the gem show. So then I had my own little chapbook with Jack's Press, Collectives of Poets, From Ambush to Zooming Zeal. And I love collective nouns. There's a slew of them in here. There's one for you. And I decided to misapply a bunch of collective nouns to poets. And it's also an abecedarian poem, so it's completely unmanageable. Poets gather for a reading. This will sound familiar. And when poets gather, anticipate an ambush, a bloom, a cackle, comedy, communion, when poets gather. Poets meet at a slam, and when poets meet, there's a drove, a disguising, destruction of poets, a fresh dash of poets when poets meet. When poets present, word warriors well-versed, Expect an exaltation, a flutter, a gulp, a huddle half cursed, where poets are well versed. In cafes, craft breweries, East Coast or West, brace for an outright intrusion, a journey, a kit bag, a poet infusion in those cafes and breweries. Opening festivals, eulogizing friends, invite a leap of poets, a memory mob or muster. May call for, forgive me, a fucking poet cluster. Not just any network yields or summons at will an ostentation of poets, a pod or a plague, a piteousness of poets, how memories are made. So start thinking as if you had a quiver of poets, could draw a bow, wave a wand, round up a rascal of poets, a virtual, veritable rash of poets. You may wish, if you're honest, you'd not stumbled upon a shoal, squabble, shiver, a study, or siege this late in the alphabet. Now on to the T's. Next time, before an open mic venture, prepare for minor misadventure with a toil, a trace, a tabernacle could possibly lead to a poet debacle. By now you might suspect a ubiquity of poets. Poets hanging like ripe grapes in vineyards. They grow it. Wait for a wedge. A warren might expect to mark the spot with an X and chortle at the yoke, with abrazos, bravos clapping, even gritos to invoke, the barking, braying, snorting, poignant, zooming zeal of poets. There's kind of an invitation to write in the back of this, because, you know, coming up with your own misapplied collective noun poems is just too much fun. Let's see. We got a few more in here. Getting to the right place. Okay. Well, first of all, if you are interested in joining Sabino Poets, we meet on the third Saturday of the month generally. That is being interrupted by the book festival this year, so it's going to shift in March. But you can get on our mailing list. There's some little half sheets over by the books that are for sale that you can grab and send me your info and I'll send you information. So in the summertime, it gets really hot in Sabino, so we go to the headwaters of Sabino Creek. We go up the mountain for a few months, and this one grew out of that. Lemon Rock Guzzle. On the path to Lemon Rock, twice I spied small Tumamock. Was thrilled to see those Tumamock, aught them name for the horned lizard. Odd them words like rain on soil, horned lizards like tiny dinosaur. They remind me of mini dinosaurs on the trail to Lemon Rock. Now I'm standing on the rock, a speck, a wee Tumamock, surveying a dizzying vista. Okay. So some of my poems are kind of memoiristic. This one goes back to my years picking fruit in the Northwest in my youth. Fruit and flowers. When I was a young migrant, there was time to gather wild herbs, mullein, stinging nettles, red clover, gleaning orchards, withered vineyards, riches of ripe currants, peaches, nectarines, black cherries, red grapes, overflowing drying racks on rocky riverbeds, dumpster diving in towns too. When autumn chill began biting, and dread was strapped on with our canvas picking sacks, you and I drove south, crossing state lines and borders, until beaches and little half-moon bays, with only the occasional local fisherman, welcomed us with warm waters a week or two before the Sea of Cortez cooled. We repeated that journey several seasons. Do you remember the fragrant melt-away sweetness of an overripe peach dried on the edge of the Columbia and savored in winter? That is the quiet joy on the rare occasion when I see you at my husband's gig, gingerly holding a tree-ripened gift at the solstice. Okay. I write a lot about books, libraries, bookstores, my librarian life, now as a budding archivist at the Western Archaeological and Conservation Center. That's a big mouthful, commonly known as WAC. I like to call it the Wacky Whack. I have written several thoughtful poems that grew out of collections I've worked on there. This is not one of them. Oh, God, I closed it. Let me get back there. It's called Important Job Skill Numero Uno. If this archiving job were a TV show, I would have found a body in the repository or the storage room by now. Maybe there would be a weapon stashed behind the Bryce Canyon collection or buried in a binder box labeled White Sands National Park. There would probably be a court case in season 2 between the Park Service and a disgruntled former employee found with explosives in the museum collection. The writers would struggle to create some bizarre love triangle, which could be tough to pull off since most of us are solidly on the spectrum. In season 3, an archivist disappears, then a curator. Fear creeps into every corner of the place, and then the bodies are found in the freezer room, their brains savagely ripped from their skulls, finally confirming everyone's darkest fear, that the zombie apocalypse is not only real, but deadly serious, and emanating from the heart of the Park Service. Along with Bigfoot, the Badlands Banshee, Crater Lake's Creature from the Deep, Mothman, the Furry Freak Brothers, and Mr. Natural. Emmy Award-winning drama like this is being cooked up daily in this building of super long hallways patterned after the opening sequence with Don Adams in Get Smart. Only murders in the building ain't got nothing on us. In this TV show I call my assistant curator job, the only limit is my imagination and how much primetime spaghetti and revenge I can squeeze through my pasta maker pen to keep me entertained during that afternoon slump that cries out for what most civilized cultures call the siesta. Thank you. That's a good open mic poem. Along with my bounty hunter librarian poem. So we're going to take a short break. What do we need? 10? 5?
Yeah, just enough to come get a soda.
Half an album side. Half an album side.
Get some food, get some drink, come back and join us.
It is really my pleasure to introduce Derek. As folks get situated, we'll make this a long introduction. Well, not really, but I've been trying to get Derek out here in Tucson for a long, long time, and we almost got him here last year when we had a terrain event at the Poetry Center. And well, the flight was canceled. There was bad weather. He was stuck in Seattle, and then he did his portion of the reading. Allison Adele Hedgecock was out here, and Julie Source Johnson read too from the Poetry Center. Anyway, he's just reading from the hotel that would seemingly be the site of The Shining.
The Overlook.
The Overlook.
The Overlook
yeah.
Hotel.
And I thought that
It was
Derek,
great.
I thought Derek would never again get an in-person invitation for a reading because he was so great online. This sort of massive head behind us, and just he was a riot. And you'll find out Derek here is a pretty good.
It made me want more.
It made Lisa want more, and so he's here today, and I'm so glad that Kelsey's with him, his daughter. I'm not going to put her on the spot, but.
Oh, sure.
But I would if Kelsey were my daughter, but she's Derek's daughter. So. And this is why my daughter is not here. Okay.
Right.
It is really my pleasure to introduce Derek Sheffield, a good friend of mine, the poetry editor for Terrain.org, and the reason that our poetry section is so award-winning and awesome. Okay, Derek Sheffield received a 2024 Pacific Northwest Booksellers Award for Cascadia Field Guide Art Ecology Poetry. There are copies for sale, $30, I believe. There.
They're sold out.
Wow, see, you guys rock. Thanks for saving me one.
Online.
His other collections include Not for Luck, selected by Mark Doty for the Wheelbarrow Books Poetry Prize. Still some of those available?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful book.
There's 3 left.
I believe that, no, maybe it was Through the Second Skin. Okay. And also Through the Second Skin, runner-up for the Emily Dickinson First Book Award. I think, Allison, did you review that for Train.org?
I either reviewed it or worked it. Did I review it?
Oh, you reviewed it, honey.
Yeah.
I reviewed it. I love it.
So
That's all I know.
It's one of the great events of my life when you reviewed it.
even if you're unsure about Derek's poetry, Allison reviewed it and gave it a positive review, so you know.
That's all that
You know you can
matters.
trust it. And that was the runner-up for the Emily Dickinson First Book Award. You've maybe heard of her. And Dear America, Letters of Hope, Habitat, Defiance, and Democracy. So Derek, Elizabeth Dodd, and I are the editors of that. An anthology that, as Derek said, started with the Letters to America series, of which we published almost 300 of those now, more and more rolling in daily, not surprisingly. It is an anthology that you need for this time in our nation, when a land ethic is really all about saving our democracy. So check that out. Those are a special price of $15 if you're interested. But you can also go online to Terrain.org and read not all of those. There are 35 letters in there that aren't published online. I'm getting to Derek, don't worry about it. He teaches in Western Colorado University's low residency MFA program. He'll have a big announcement coming up in May, I can't say. He edits poetry for Terrain.org, which I can say again and again. And he often can be found in the woods along the eastern slopes of the Cascade Range near Leavenworth, Washington. Please help me in welcoming Derek Sheffield.
Wow, it's so nice to be here. I've been hoping to get to Tucson for a... You live? Did you start her? Start her up, Dan. Okay, I got this young man here is my timekeeper tonight. So he's supposed to raise his hand at 40 minutes. So, but oh my gosh, my daughter and I and Dad and Mom have just been having such a great time smelling the smells of the Sonoran Desert, and especially after that rain last night, the grace of that rain, smelling the petrichor. I bet you know that word.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Ah, man, and hearing the birds and seeing the people going out to eat and just getting a sense for all the flavors of this place. It's marvelous. Maravilloso. And then I was talking to Phil today when we went up Sabino Canyon, and we did a writing prompt, and Phil got going on something, and he said, well, I don't know if it's a story or a poem. I never know what exactly a poem is, and of course that, and I'm thinking about Charles's great introduction and with those definitions, and I would add one to your list too. William Stafford said, a poem is what happens when a certain kind of attention is paid to language. And I love that because it you can think about the writer and you can think about the reader in that definition. But then I thought maybe I would share this little poem with you in honor of Phil and his thinking about what is a poem and what isn't. So this is a poem, I think, that started out as a note on a refrigerator. This is just to say, I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox, and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me. They were delicious. So sweet and so cold.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. William Carlos Williams. Or thereabouts.
WCW.
So,
From New Jersey.
from one Latino poet to another here, Simmons mentioned this book, and I would like to share with you one of my favorites from this book, one of the poems that, when it first came in for this book, really broke me open a little bit. It's called History Kids by David Hernandez. These kids in tents, white tents in camps in Texas, these brown kids who trekked miles with parents, deserts and mountain passes with parents, days of scorch and nights with parents with flashlights, stars with mama's voice, soothing kids with moon-blued skin, with closed eyelids and dreaming, with high noon shadows and humming, the land sliding into hand-me-down shoes, laceless, rubber soles worn thin. These kids, now in chain-link fences, trapped in, wrapped in thermal blankets in synthetic shine, flashing together like stars, the ones you don't see, hidden by distance, by degrees below horizon, by these government tents, these canopies of white. In pictures, they blur their faces. They vanish anguished eyes. We see anyway we imagine, which shade of earth, which hue of helpless, specks of gold or green, like mica in stone. Oh, America, your own kids shimmer this summer, this season of turning hydrants to fountains, mailboxes to scrap metal, thanks to fireworks, waxy vines on kitchen walls, thanks to crayons, thanks to kids. But that's how they are. That's what they do. They're just kids. They're just kids.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Here's a new one to share. With any luck, you won't relate at all to this poem. Whiskey Nightmare. We were riding horses in the sun, the flung light of your hair, the sound of laughter. I watched your easy rhythm and struggled to hold on. The little creek just there oxbowed and ran in glints between the darkened trunks of fir as we were riding horses in the sun. You always knew the way they ought to run through stubbled acres cut with rusty wire. I watched your easy rhythm as I barely held on. All your life, horses, the squealing one, that reared and kicked and bucked on your wall. And here we were, prancing on horses in the sun. Sister, have we been ever close as when you led me through your dream to laugh at fear? I followed your easy rhythm and struggled on. All you want to do now is to be done. And all that I can do is dream. Remember how you and I rode horses in the sun. I watched your easy rhythm, learning to hold on. I want to read this one because Pam and William are here, marvelous editors of Cutthroat, a literary journal you might be familiar with, and they were good enough to publish this poem, give it a fine home in Cutthroat. So this is, it's a poem that comes, I'm as you can tell, I have just the best friends. I'm graced with just really beautiful souls who seem to think I'm okay and like to spend time with me. And one of those is a Forest Service biologist who, I love this, and who does wildlife rehab on the DL, because you have to get like special certification and everything to do it, and you're not supposed to, mess with, blah, blah, blah. Unless it's starlings, then you can do whatever you want with them, right?
That's not
And
true.
so anyway, she is actually getting her certification now, and she works with someone. The problem is that there's no one in the area who does that work except her, but everybody knows. So I help her out sometimes when she's gone, and this poem comes from that. Hawk. It's something older than hate, that gleam in her glass brown eye. Something to do with the tendon she would sever if I gave her the chance. That is what I press to my heart with one hand, while with the other I push down her throat gobbets of chicken dripping from the end of a pair of chopsticks. No matter which words I offer each time I open her cage and reach with my gloved fingers, she snapcocks her wings and splays her bill into hooked scissors. She is almost ready to be thrown into the air, the flaps of her huge wings struggling into flight, gusting across my skin. But for now, still, the knife of her heart next to mine. How tethered she is to no man. How she needs me, like the sun needs the wind to burn.
By the way, we nominated that one for a push cart.
Hey, all right. Right here, sister. Come on. So, yeah, maybe I'll get an introduction from Charles next time.
Dude.
It's a strange time. The last, 10 years or something, there are people that I love dearly who voted differently than me. And I still don't understand it, really. We keep trying to understand it, and we really can't. The issues of the day. If my cousin would let me speak to him, I wouldn't say a thing about the issues of the day, his son or Jesus, my sin or his. I would only ask if he remembers that roadside ditch's galaxy of guppies. How we ran back to his house to slip his mother's pantyhose around a wire hanger we bent into a loop. I would ask if he too can still feel the sun on the top of his straight-haired head, where all afternoon we kneeled beside a glass jar, the world gusting with our shouts as we scooped and splashed toward every scatter of star-glittered fish. 100 sermons or more, I would say, we ducked between the polished slants of pews to feel tears squeeze from our eyes and our bodies shake to contain fits of laughter. When the organ at last roused to moan, we were the first to scramble out a side door and stop to blink in the sudden bright before walking slowly across gravel to where weeds began to stoop as one and gather the rocks that felt right in our hands. We were ideologues of moments and the breath in our bodies. Every time we were lucky enough then to be together and feel what it was to have a brother to stand beside and throw rocks into a field as hard and far arcing as we could. It never occurred to us, watching each one go, that we could possibly land in a time when we would be each other's silence.
My goodness.
How about a tone change?
That one's going to take some time to digest.
How about you read that at the next inauguration?
Who's that?
How about you read that at the next inauguration?
Oh, okay. Next inauguration.
Regardless
I
of
like
who
it.
it is.
Okay.
We get one.
If we get one.
How we doing there, amigo?
You have all the time in the world.
We got all the time in the world. Okay, we're good. I got a timekeeper here.
I like your
Okay.
I like your clock.
Okay.
I'll get rid of it.
Some years ago, a friend of mine came up to me right after his wife, and he had the surprise of a third child. Okay, I guess we're not done yet. Here comes another one. And he came up to me one day and he said, you know, he had this minor surgery in mind, and he was saying, hey, have you got that done yet? And I said, no, I haven't got that done yet. And he said, well, have you ever thought about getting that done? And I said, no, I haven't really thought about getting it done. Well, if you think about getting it done sometime, let me know, because I found a guy in Seattle. And that's all he does, all day. He just does that. He's a specialist. So he would be the guy. If you want to have it done, he's the one to do it. So I thought about it a while. I was like, okay, let's do it. So one day we made a trip over over the Cascades and got it done and came back. And so anyway, this is called a poem called Getting It Done. And it's dedicated for Dr. Charles Wilson. Naked below your waist and on your back, you shake your doctor's hand. Call me Chick, he says, snapping on a pair of gloves. You've never heard that one, but you'd rather a chick did what this man is about to do than your logger neighbor, Doug. You've driven 2 mountain passes to get to Seattle, and this specialist's reputed pianist's touch. And you can't see him knobbing a skitter through the stumps of a clear cut. Get Her Done is not bumper stuck to the rear of his Prius. No, you're certain as you lie with your legs open, you found a woodsman of another kind, whose fingertips have butterfly kissed the keys of. Just now adjust a gooseneck lamp, deftly tape your shaft to your belly, and begin to swab your scrotum. Your eyes fix upon the photo deliberately hung for all the men who have lain here and all the Richards to come. It's a family in what looks to be a park, and then oh escapes your mouth as if you're about to sing "Say Can You," as Chick digs for a vase like a granny after a weed. One hand pinches a clamp on every furtive strip of your hog soul, while the other pelts your left testicle with lidocaine. The mother and daughter watch as the father tosses the son into the air, arms upraised in a skewed U, their smiles framed in bright swarms of autumn leaves. Chick, too, is smiling as he hands you a pocket knife that bears his clinic's name.
Oh my God.
And you're up and walking like a man with an egg on a spoon, mincing past the receptionist who nods as if "come again" is about to slip from her lips. A pale man in the waiting room watches your every step to the glass door and out into the rinsed air of April. A breath of fluttery forms and teetering songs and stems everywhere about to bloom.
Nobody who hears that is ever going to get it done.
Imagine your daughter's grateful it was done later than sooner.
I think so. Kelsey, have you ever heard me read that one before? That's a first, right? Okay.
Have you read it before?
I was realizing, no, she hasn't read it. There's a marvelous writer that was one of Simmons' teachers that we both love, Scott Russell Sanders, just a beautiful soul. And he says about his children, he says, that his kids are as interested in his books as like a potato farmer's children is as interested in his potatoes, right? So anyway, I think I think about that, when it comes up.
You must not have seen the recent Lay's potato chip commercial from the Super Bowl.
Oh, is that right? What's that?
There was a recent Lay's potato chip commercial
Uh-huh.
where the potato daughter.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, wow.
And she's like fixated about the potatoes.
Uh-huh.
And then she grabs a potato that falls from the
Oh,
that's
Off the
right. Off the truck, and then she takes the potato, she plants the potato, and the potato grows, and she has her own potato, and then she gives it to the Lay's potato people and make it into a potato chip.
She's messing.
there you go. There you go.
So you see, there it is, the potato
is- we
falling
should-
not too
She's
far from the
messing with
vine.
your message.
Potato doesn't fall too far from the
Right
something. I
there,
don't
right
know.
there.
Okay. Hey, listen. There's a beautiful book coming out on March 4th called "The Gift of Animals." And it's an anthology published by Story Press that Allison Hawthorne Deming edited. And I got a glimpse of it last night, an advance copy, and it's gorgeous. And it's that's what it is. It's all these poems that are focused on this notion of the gift of animals. And so one of the sections in there is spiritual.
Sacred.
Huh?
The sacred.
The sacred. Oh, I like that better. Sacred. Gift of the sacred. And so this is a poem in that section. And it also like that. I mean, a lot of the things I do in my poems, actually, it's really, I'm just grabbing things out of my life. A lot of it is documentary. I mean, that dude really does give a pocket knife to every patient with his clinic's name on it. And they have the little scissors.
Oh my God.
So, and this poem too is really just almost all right out of my life, and it comes from teaching an interdisciplinary class with a biologist colleague at my college for about 20 years. We combined the study of ecology and writing in a class called Northwest Nature Writing, and not so much anymore, but when we first started teaching it, this was a kind of a provincial conservative area, Eastern Washington, and when we first started teaching it, we would have to sort of gird our loins and get ready to teach evolution, you know, and you never knew what you were going to hear, right? So this is a poem called Contextual Education. Wenatchee, Washington. He wouldn't make us look like monkeys, says a student in the front row, because he made us in his image. She laughs and turns to check for smiles and nods. The professor stands by the whiteboard where he has written the word adaptation. He's thinking of all the lessons, like similes, that have appeared in black ink across this space, and that have, like species, gone. He cannot help but see her in the church van on the field trip, pretending she doesn't know she's the pretty one who doesn't know exactly what's happening inside the boy beside her when she tosses her pink-streaked hair and blows a word across his ear. In the room's silence, she shows them what she means by turning her hands into big ears and wagging her head. They wonder what sort of experiment they are as their professor turns off the lights and clicks a chimp's face onto the screen. No one says a thing at the God looking back from those brown, sad eyes. How much time do I have? Did you not do it?
That's okay, keep going.
You didn't do it?
We shut it off.
Oh, okay.
If I saw anybody going to sleep, I was going to turn it on.
Okay. So my timer, there's an act of resistance here. My timer quit.
When it's your parents,
What do we got
might
here?
not be trustworthy.
Okay, so I'm going to finish up here. Maybe, what, one more poem, two more poems?
Two.
Dose, okay.
Three. Maybe three.
Possibly 4.
I tell you, man.
Depends on the word.
Oh, I know. Hey. So, we got this one here, and there's this poem. Sometimes, when you're making poems is really just a lot about paying attention, a lot of it, at least for me, the way I go about it, paying attention, noticing. It's the art of noticing, I think, for me, and in that way, and then in special ways that language opens up places. It gives me more life. This is a life-increasing activity, is what we're involved in here. There's the increases our available stock of reality, is what one critic said at one point, which I liked. I've been thinking about for many years, but noticing those things. I mean, so when you make poems like that, everything in your life, everything that happens to you, takes on a special kind of resonance. There's nothing that's quotidian, yeah, I love it. So here's this, and so when you're noticing things, you can sometimes you come across what we call a found poem, And this is one of my sheroes is Ursula Le Guin. I read her deeply when I was a kid, and then I've never stopped reading her, really. I got the chance once to walk up to her and just tell her how much her work meant to me, and so this is her little poem that we were able to feature in this Cascadia Field Guide book, which is like amazing. This book combines science and art and poetry to make a special kind of field guide, a special kind of way of being in place, really. I don't know, we worked on it for 5 years. We thought it would be like, I don't know, the other books of poetry where, it comes out and, your friend and your parents and your daughter come to the reading and you sell a few copies, okay, great. Well, this thing, it turns out this thing sold over 15,000 copies in a year. It's like won every award that the publisher sent it out to. I mean, it's just been amazing. And I think that part of that was just maybe the time that it came out, because it was right as the pandemic was ending. And there was this loneliness, not just for other people, but for the other beings, the plant and animal beings. So here's Ursula Le Guin's poem called Found Poem. It has an epigraph from the AP, from a newspaper. However, Bruce Baird, Laguna Beach's chief lifeguard, doubts that sea lions could ever replace or even really aid his staff. If you were someone from Ohio and you were in the water having trouble and a sea lion approached you, well, it would require a whole lot more public education, he told the Orange County Register. If I am ever someone from Ohio, in the water having trouble off a continent's west edge, and am translated to my element by a sudden warm great animal with sea dark fur, sleek shining, and the eyes of Shiva, I hope to sink my troubles like a stone, and all uneducated ride her inshore, shouting with the foam praises of the freedom to be saved. Okay, here's the last poem, and it's a poem that came from paying attention to my daughters, one daughter in particular. We'll talk about resistance. She and I, a few years ago, well, during the first, how can we even be saying that, during the first Trump administration, she and I, there was a proposal to drill for oil off of the Washington coast that was floating around for a while, and so she and I joined our then Attorney General, Bob Ferguson, who's now our governor, joined him and some tribal members and other members of environmental organizations on a protest hike about 26 miles along that wild, incredible coast. And she had, Kelsey had her own backpack on. How old were you, Kelsey? You remember? Yeah, you were like just a little tweeter, like what, 11, 12, like that? Yeah. And so, and the thing is she's a rock hound, So, I mean, what happened is, like, I noticed, like, her backpack kept getting heavier and heavier, and she kept stowing all these rocks in different various pockets on her backpack. Yeah, good times. So this is a short poem, and it has one of those titles that flow right into the text. She gathers rocks wherever she goes, make that sticks, no, leaves, which is to say, heads of flowers and hips. More river than daughter, her arms filled with treasures of every trail. Hold this, she says, to make us her buckets, her pockets, already clack and bristle full. Goes fast, they say, and it was going as they said it, where it's gone into us, counting to 5 times a day, saying, time for bed, time to wake, time to leave. And it's gone into her, quickening eyes and stride that have left us among all the things she once believed she couldn't leave behind. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Take some food. Have a final swig. But what's our next event? I should know.
March 22nd at 326? Yeah. 326 Gallery on Wilmot Road, Leanne Brown
And Karen
Karen Brennan.
All right. Love Karen Brennan. And I'm looking forward to getting to know Leanne Brown.
Love being a
And the next event here at Wave Archive is tomorrow night. There's a movie, documentary about it's radical experimental psychologist, Tosqueas. There's some posters over there.
Okay.
And there's lots of stuff that's happening here too. So if you feel like signing up for an email list, we have one over there. And thanks all for being here.
Thank you.